My skin looks blotchy as. What the frick? What's up, guys? Great start. Great intro. So what a clown. I got a little back injury. Got a little back niggle. Self-diagnosed. It's just a minor facet sprain down on the left side low back. Nothing too major. But this creates a great opportunity for me to step in with context on ways that we can navigate things like this when we've got a goal in mind. And right now the goal for me is running. I've got to run. I've got aspirations to join Victorian firefighting, and in order to get through, you've got to get through a beep test. And, I'm not a great runner. And despite what a lot of people believe, in my opinion, a beep test isn't a fitness test, it's a skill. You've got to learn the intricacies of a beep test, and you aren't just going to do that doing a whole bunch of running. However, my running base is poor, so I decided to start out with some running, just some really cruisy intervals, 3 minutes on, 3 minutes off. Last week, I think I did about 12 Ks for the entire week, 12 kilometers. So, in fact, I don't even pause for edit. Let's pull up Strava. So, on the 12th, pull up calendar. 12th, which was Monday, I had a 6K, a 6 kilometer run with 1-to-1 intervals of 3 minutes on, 3 minutes off. And that ended with Oliver's Hill, which is quite a big, it's not a huge hill. I mean, it's a hill when you're tired as well. So it's about a 500 to 600 meter sort of finish for me when I'm already tired and I don't like running. Just keep that in mind. Oh, I got kudos. Okay, whatever. Thanks, guys. And then on the 14th, which was the Wednesday, I did a 3.8 kilometer run. Same intervals, 3 minutes on, 3 minutes off. I just shortened the distance, but I finished the run with the hill again. And then finally, on Friday, another 3.8 kilometers with the 1-to-1 runs, 3 minutes on, 3 minutes off again. So for a total of approximately 13-ish kilometers. 6.1, 3.8, 3.8, that's 7.6. So yeah, it's about 15? It's about 13 kilometers. 13 and a half kilometers for the week. Now, Friday was when I did my last 3K run. My back got a little sore Friday afternoon, Friday evening, and then Saturday it felt okay, but I did a lot of sitting because I had to do a bunch of programming. I didn't train at all. I went for a little walk. Sunday, which was yesterday, I woke up and felt just really tight through the lower back, and then extending through my spine gave me some awareness, some acute awareness in that low back left side. And so I gave it yesterday to settle, tried to stay off the legs, and then this morning I ran myself through a couple of movement tests just to see what I could eliminate from the equation. And I've come up with just a very minor left side facet sprain, nothing too crazy. And honestly, it isn't. But what I want to talk about is where do we go from here? Because I've just said my goal is to run and I need to get better at running. And a lot of people fall into this category of they might dive in the deep end a little too fast. And I definitely did last week with 12 Ks under the belt for the entire week. Considering my average training load for the last 12 weeks has been 0 Ks a week. So 12 Ks for the week, while it doesn't seem like a lot across a week, somewhere between 0 kilometers and 12 kilometers has been too much for my body to handle. And so we need to learn how to load manage. And that's what I'm going to be doing starting right now. So let's dive into it. So if we have a quick look at our performance continuum You can see from left to right, we've got red through green to blue. I am currently sitting in that red phase. If we bring the mouse up here, I'm currently sitting in that red phase, pain, and that pain is impairing my mobility through my lower back currently. So what we need to do is find a way to address the medical problem that I have so that I can move myself back into the green zone, which is training, my GPP or general physical preparation. And in order to do that, I have to respect a couple of things. So up here we've got the three elements of training, or the three elements of performance that any one given time you can be training. And we've got high quality movement over here, high rate of force, and a long time or duration over here. So right now my quality of movement isn't particularly high because I'm in pain and I've got an impaired mobility because of that pain. And so training high quality movement should become my priority in order to expedite this pain and mobility issue I've got. Trying to train high amounts of force or, strength endurance or power endurance for a long period of time is just going to relay more of this pain signal, which will continue to further impair my mobility and motor control as my symptoms worsen. So we have to understand and respect this process of healing and training. Right now, my training is healing. So what I'm going to be focusing on for the next few days is ways to manage pain. At the moment, it honestly isn't that bad. I've just chucked a deep heat pad on my back, and it's doing its job. It's just easing the pain while I sit and do a bit of work and record this content. My mobility is something that I will be focusing on, and we're about to jump in the garage and talk about that. And also the elements of motor control that come into play. And I'm talking about mobility and motor control as it pertains to my threshold in terms of pain, like going into ranges that hurt. And we're about to look at that now. So training for me is recovery or rehab, if you want to call it that, because it's a medical problem I have, as opposed to just going and training the elements that I think are more important, which would be, the high force and the longer duration. These aren't as important right now because I would be getting impaired results or impaired adaptations from it. So we have to be mindful that pain underpins mobility, which underpins our ability to control movement with a high quality. And then we want to be loading that high quality of movement, with either a strength or a power stimulus, depending on what end of the force velocity curve we want to be training. And then we can take those elements that we've then, developed and train them into different thresholds. And then we can take it into a more specific physical preparation. And in this instance here, the specific physical preparation, or the SSP, the sports specific, is the beep test, right? Because I can run. It's not that I can't run. It's just that I'm not great at it. So it's not like I have a specific running goal. Instead, I have a quote unquote test that I have to do. And that test is specific and there's a skill associated with it. So I just need to train the elements that underpin that skill specific test. And we're going to do that. But first, I've got to jump into the garage and run you guys through my plan for the next week as it pertains to dealing with pain, mobility, and motor control. So we're in the garage now. After spending some time on the computer, recording that content, I was feeling quite good sitting down, and then as I stood up to come out here, I started to get those symptoms in the back again, particularly on the left side, lower back, just above my pelvis, in that region where I'd self-diagnosed perhaps a bit of facet irritation. Now, I have to train because I still need to be able to drive function, but I just have to be wary that I'm in that red zone right now rather than the green zone when it comes to training, when we're looking at rehabilitation, because I have a medical problem right now, which is pain and the symptoms that are being driven from potential facet irritation. Now, when I was seated, it's interesting to note that I didn't feel those symptoms, and now I do feel those symptoms when I'm standing. And this is going to help not only cement the next step in that continuum when we talk about pain and mobility, but it's also going to set up an opportunity for me to talk about that. So what I went from in terms of seated to standing positions is a hip flexed position to a hip extended position. And when we think about mobility requirements, in terms of hip extension, in this position, I just need a minimum of 0 degrees for my femur to be sitting in hip extension. And I can already tell you, because I can feel it, I'm quite tight, and I'm sure you might be able to see it on the camera. I can feel quite an excessive curve happening through that lower back already. And I can tell what it's driven from because I can feel it. I guess because of years of just being able to learn what my body does and doesn't like in certain positions. But I can already feel that I'm getting a lot of tension through the front of my hips. And as a result, I'm swaying away from my hips to try to find my center of mass over my feet. And as a result, I'm getting a little bit of wind up through that lower back. So I can feel some tension through the quads and some tension through my hips. And particularly on my right side oblique and left side rectus abdominis, so the muscle directly down the front here, and then the muscle that acts almost like a seatbelt around the side here, it just feels very, it's tended to palpate, but it also feels very tight, and that's very, very tight. So there might be a little bit of abdominal tissue at play here as well that's preventing me from finding a nice neutral position with my pelvis. Normally I can tuck my pelvis up to reduce that curve through my back and activate my front side, but right now I'm feeling it's very, very difficult for me to do that. So it wouldn't be a waste of time if I had an hour to spend 5 to 10 minutes working on that soft tissue and sitting in positions potentially like a couch stretch or even a bretzel. I can shoot links in the video for those, but sitting in those positions and trying to open up through those positions. We're not necessarily trying to stretch away the pain, but what we are trying to do is expose our body to positions that it doesn't own, and then learning to breathe into those positions so that we can potentially reduce the impact that those positions or lack thereof have on contributing to our symptoms. What do I mean by that? I know that when I was sitting in hip flexion, I had no pain. When I stand up and I go into hip extension, I have some pain. This implicates the potential for my hips to be contributing to my spine, or my spine pain, let me say. So then it wouldn't be a waste of time to spend some time just getting these hips moving a little better, not necessarily changing structural length of any tissues, but we're at least exposing the joint and the surrounding tissues to potential limiting factors that are holding it back from expressing free range. And that may lead to me standing up and finding a little bit of symptom relief, which may mean that I spend the next 45 to 50 minutes training with better, higher quality movement, which was a part of that performance continuum, as opposed to not being able to finish the session, which will impair my training effect, or getting a potentially aggravated facet joint and making that worse, which will then impair my training effect for the next week or however long it takes for that aggravation to settle. So what I'm trying to do is set myself up in the next 5 to 10 minutes for a better training effect, rather than just trying to fix my symptoms or fix my problem with some magic stretch, which doesn't work. We still need to be able to move because movement helps the body heal, but we don't want to be moving through pain because we know pain can alter motor control, which affects our high quality of movement, and then that's going to impair our training effect not only today but potentially for the next 7 to 10 days while I heal from potentially aggravating my symptoms or worsening them. Anyway, I hope you guys get something out of this video. This is just a sneaky look at how I manage injury personally and also professionally with my clients. I don't like to rest. The idea of rest for me is taking some of the approaches that I would to my session and changing them slightly. So I'm not going to be loading any end range hip extension today. So I won't be using the trap bar simply because I know that my hip extension is a little impaired, and if I load it too much and get to the top and I'm not paying attention, or I get a little fatigued and I overextend, that hurt. Just overextending there hurt. So I know if I load the trap bar and I lose focus, even for just a second, I could potentially aggravate or worsen my symptoms, and that takes me out of training for the next 7 to 10 days while I heal. So instead of going in and doing the things that I have to do anyway because they're on the program, I'm going to modify some of them. So I'm going to keep away from the loaded end range hip extension, and I might work some body weight patterns instead. I might work some time under tension patterns. Everybody here knows that I love a Bulgarian split squat, and I love an isometric component to that Bulgarian split squat. So maybe I'll work within comfortable ranges to load the tissue through my legs and my calves and get my pillar stacked so I'm still getting a training effect without worsening or just aggravating my symptoms. Thanks so much for watching, guys. And if you have questions about training around injuries or even with an injury, please reach out and I'm happy to help or at least answer any questions that you may have. And if you'd like to see a little bit more on me training with these injuries, I'm happy to do videos on them or write mock training programs. But I feel like context is the real element that gets across to people here. So writing a mock training program that has no relevance, for me, just feels like it's hard for me to get that lesson to stick. Whereas at least when I have these conversations and you're happy to watch them, we get something out of it together. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you got something out of it. My name's Cam, this is Principles of Performance, and I'll catch you on the next video. It's me, it's your boy. I know the microphone is still picking up the road noise. I'm trying my best, I really am. It's frustrating because some days I use it and it works really well, and some days I use it like today and it hasn't worked super well. Well, I say today. The video will probably be coming out on Wednesday, but I'm aware that the road noise is still coming through, and I promise this will be fixed when I can get myself a better audio solution. I have some things that I'm playing with in terms of some filters and stuff for the audio in Adobe Premiere Pro. So if you have a solution for me, feel free to hit me up. If not, bear with me, please be patient. I'm really, really sorry, and I will continue to do my best. I love you. Yeah. You.